The Agrarian Kitchen began its life as a cooking school where people come and harvest their produce, and then we get together and cook it all together in the kitchen, sit down and eat it together. We now have the restaurant, which along the same lines is using produce as close to the source as possible, cooking it simply and beautifully and putting it on the plate. My name's Rodney Dunn. I started a chef apprenticeship quite a while ago now in a country town in New South Wales. I moved to Sydney to work for Tetsuya and I finished my apprenticeship there. It was after that I took a bit of a sideways step and worked in food media. So I worked on Better Homes and Gardens television as the food researcher. I ended up as the food editor at Gourmet Traveller magazine. And then it was after that we had a little country sojourn and moved to country Tasmania to open the Agrarian Kitchen. The thing I'm most passionate about when it comes to food is the produce and being as close to the source of that produce as we can possibly get and using lots of different varieties that people rarely ever get to see. The Agrarian Eatery is located in a tiny little town called New Norfolk, which is a 30-minute drive out of Hobart along the Derwent River. Within a week we can service anywhere between 400 to 600 covers. We make absolutely everything. So if you're eating a fresh cheese on a plate, a cured meat, all our bread, all our butter, we've made it. Within 4 months of opening, we won 2 hats and were voted Best Regional Restaurant in Australia by the Good Food Guide. That's something we didn't expect, we didn't set out for, we just set out to do simple food. It's a lot simpler than what a lot of people expect of 2-hat food. We're able to have our produce harvested every morning if we need it. For instance, our lamb comes in from just literally down the road. It goes to the local abattoir, it comes in whole. The staff here break it down. Our beef is usually a Highland cattle beef that 2 young girls raise themselves. A lot of the pork comes from my own property that I've raised. A lot of the vegetables come from the community garden, which is literally opposite the restaurant down on the flats. Chefs go in there, take what we need, and then we let them know what we've taken. So week to week, we don't know what we're going to get. It's a case of knowing what's coming up and planning our menus accordingly. We chose the location where the eatery is situated simply because it was so beautiful. It's an old mental institution and the buildings were dilapidated and falling apart. We had great big open spaces, which meant, the layout and design was going to be fairly easy for us, and we had a lot of original features. As soon as we walked into this room, we could imagine people sitting in here and eating. When we started out, the equipment, we weren't quite sure what we'd need. It wasn't like we had a menu already planned, and so we tried to cover our bases. Number one, we wanted that flexibility, so having deep fryers, having pasta cookers, and then we also needed the equipment to be able to preserve. We knew that throughout summer we'd have way more produce than we could handle, but it was important to preserve that for winter when we didn't quite have as much produce as we needed. So using things like our brat pan, our combi oven, we spend most of summer with one chef just preserving every week. Electrolux for us seemed like a pretty obvious choice. I had a very good friend with a restaurant who used Electrolux products and was very, very happy with them. And I'd used them when I'd helped him out at his place. And so it was just a natural fit for us. Our target tops are used through service. It's fantastic to be able to have things just keeping warm on the edge, or you need to bring something to the boil to be able to slide it into the middle. So it's an integral part of our kitchen to have that there in the middle as our heat source. The double pasta cook is fantastic because we're so vegetable based to be able to blanch greens in there. We always generally have a pasta on the menu that we've made, so to be able to cook the pasta to order is just fantastic. Because we're doing large volume customage through here, it's 120 seats over a weekend day. So when we make a stock, we need to be able to make it in large volume. So rather than having large pans on gas burners, things like our brat pan allow us to do a large volume at once. When it comes to turning 1.5 tons tomatoes, as we did last year, into chutneys and preserves, it means that we can do it in one hit. I'd totally recommend the Electrolux range to my peers because they perform. They make our lives really easy, and the last thing we want to be worrying about when we've got 100 people booked for lunch is that our equipment's working and up to standard. I think for the Agrarian Kitchen, we're always looking at honing what we do, making our system smoother. The big thing will be a move for our cooking school into the site where the restaurant is. We've got a huge open space, what was a walled exercise yard that will turn into a walled garden, which will make the proximity between our restaurant kitchen and the garden all the closer and make our end product a lot better.